Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to introduce Reuben Swartz. He's the creator of Mimiran. It's a unique CRM designed for independent consultants, coaches, and fractional executives. Unlike most CRMs that are out there that are kind of like trying to learn how to fly a plane, this is not that. They're usually aimed at sales teams. But Mimiran helps solo professionals nurture relationships, track referrals, and streamline their business development in a way that feels really good and natural. Reuben's passionate about solving challenges that he once faced, making the process easier for others. A standout feature here is the Mad Lib style. I love this tool, and it helps people that are using this to define and articulate their business in a compelling way. This innovation addresses a common struggle among Reuben's audience, and pretty much all of us. It's the hardest business at all to promote or write about is your own. So this solves that. I'm so excited. So get ready to meet an entrepreneur who's revolutionizing how independent consultants and coaches approach sales and marketing. Reuben, welcome to Entrepreneurs Gone Wild.
Sue, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled to have you. I love this. When I was in college, I was a psych major, and I took a course called, you had to take probability statistics. And I was like, I can't. They made one specifically for psych majors. And it was like, this is Belltown. It just made it so that it was easy to do. I kind of feel like you've done the same thing for people who really don't want to be, they're not the hustle bros. They're not the, high ramp, Grant Cardone style sellers. Is that accurate?
I hadn't thought of it quite like that, but I think it is kind of accurate. There's so much pressure and there's so much literature and training and software and so on around getting sales teams to perform better. And I was actually part of that sales and marketing industrial complex when I was a sales and marketing consultant. So that's the double irony here, right? I could help my clients do this stuff, but when it came to my own business, I really struggled and I hated it. And I tried using all of the fancy tools that my clients were deploying, and I could just never, I always just felt miserable and stupid. And I kept trying dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And I thought, I'd love to be able to tell you that I had a flash of insight and thought, aha, I should do it this other way. I didn't. It's a long, winding, torturous road. But what's obvious to me looking back is all those tools are not even designed to help the salespeople sell, let alone someone who's not a salesperson like me, who doesn't even like selling. They're designed to let the VP of sales track the sales team, which is what you want to do if you're the VP of sales. I totally get that. But when it's just you and you're not a VP of sales, you're not a salesperson, you're not a marketing person, you don't really like any of that stuff, you're kind of like, it's like taking the space shuttle to the grocery store. You don't really want to be carrying the groceries by hand. And so someone says, oh, you need a vehicle. And then someone says, well, I'm a vehicle consultant. Here's a space shuttle. Everyone loves it. And then the next thing you know, you're like, gosh, I'd rather just carry it by hand. And it's just a cycle of frustration. And what I realized is, well, and I fought this every step of the way because people asked me to create a CRM as I started building plugins. And I kept saying, no, we don't need another CRM. And I'm the last person who should build one because I hate them. And they're like, well, that's why you should build it, because you did it.
Exactly.
And finally, I got so frustrated that I was like, I should really listen to my customers, right? Like, we don't need all this stuff. We need a way to create and nurture relationships. We want to figure out exactly who we're supposed to talk to, and then we want to follow up with them and talk to them. We want to function more like a doctor than a salesperson. Right? The doctor has a specialty. They have a waiting room full of patients that are generally in line with the thing that they deal with. And not all of them need surgery right away. Some of them need to come back in 6 months. Some of them are going to go away and never come back. Some of them belong with a different doctor down the hall. But the doctor shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I got to go close this one person who's in my waiting room this week because that's the only referral I got, right? That would be a disaster. But that's how we treat sales for independent consultants. And we sort of accidentally turn these people who hate selling into the used car salesman who's like, oh, I finally got someone on the lot, I better go close this. And that's exactly what we don't want to be doing. So this lets you lean into the relationship side of it and just show up like a doctor, have a good time talking to people and getting business instead of forcing yourself to do quote unquote sales, which makes you miserable and isn't very effective because the other person can tell something fishy is going on.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love this so much because, oh gosh, yeah, yeah, they're like the only thing worse than going through standard sales training. I'm so tempted to name a name. I'm not going to do it, but there's so many like that. But the only thing worse is the CRM, like, and you're right. All it is normally is if you're on a sales team, it's, so VP of sales can track, are you doing your job? And when you are all the hats, that's not necessary. And it does feel so icky. And that's, so many like coaches and consultants, it's like, we tend to be more like empathetic. We're trying to, we just really want to help. It's curiosity driven. Like, can I help you? Does it hurt here? Does it hurt?
Right.
And I'm so glad you created this because that was definitely needed. As you found out from your clients, like they're begging you, please, Reuben, build this thing.
Yes.
All right, fine. Oh my gosh. All right. So before you got to this, how did your entrepreneurial journey go so far?
Well, I was working on really complex sales and marketing software for Fortune 500 companies. And I'm a software guy. And I got really frustrated that by the time the requirements got to me, I felt like we were all doing twice as much work for half the benefit because the people creating the requirements didn't understand the software. The people doing the software didn't understand the business processes. And everyone was kind of playing telephone. And they were all doing it for the most part with the best of intentions, but it was a game of telephone. And I was young and dumb and a little bit burnt out on the whole .com thing. And I thought, if we could combine the business strategy, the business process, and the technology in one coherent vision, we could get more benefit for less work. And shockingly enough, I think that was actually true. Lo and behold, right, in that I was able to help do that, and I ended up hiring some people, and at one point I even hired a salesperson, and got to do all kinds of fun things all over the world, helping these big companies. But it was also a little bit, sometimes it was frustrating because you do all this work and then a PowerPoint would sit on the shelf for 6 months and then they would get reorged and it was like it didn't actually do anything. And one thing I noticed, sometimes I would get tapped by somebody in my referral network, hey, can you do this little project for me? And if I could fit that in between these big projects, it was kind of a fun way. It wasn't really a big money maker, but it was a fun way to like really change someone's life often in an afternoon.
Wow.
And so I would love to say again that I had a flash of insight and I was like, aha, I could do this and help small business owners and feel like I was doing something more meaningful. But that's not what happened, right? It was been a long, strange journey. But that's the genesis of it, right? I was the quote unquote sales and marketing expert that some of these companies were bringing in. And at the same time, my own sales and marketing was appallingly bad. And it wasn't until later that I realized that there's so many of us in this situation. And of course, it's extra ironic for me because I'm supposed to know how to do sales and marketing. But all of us folks who spend our energy, like you mentioned, we want to spend our energy with the clients, really helping them. Doing the business development stuff, which is a worthy thing to do, is just not how we want to roll. And especially when it starts to feel icky, we draw back from it, we procrastinate around it, and we make the problem worse. And what I realized is we had to figure out a way to do it that was true to ourselves, that we could actually lean into and be excited about. And then we would actually go do it and get better at it and create a virtuous cycle instead of a vicious cycle.
That is so great. I mean, it sounds like at each stage, it was kind of like, I mean, it's ideal, really. You were pulled by people like, please help us with this. Please make this. So many times entrepreneurs will go, I have a great idea. And then they run with it. But they missed a huge step of going, does anybody want this? And you've had that proven to you over and over, which is really cool.
Well, I love the way you tell the story because the way I tell the story in my head, knowing all the quote unquote great ideas I had that people didn't necessarily want, like there's all that in there too. I just skipped over that part because we only have a limited time.
Yeah, we've all built that stuff in a vacuum, going, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome! It's gonna be awesome!" And then you launch crickets. So, all right. So when did you start Mimiran, and like, how's it going?
Well, I started over 20 years ago, when I mean, practically a kid. Uh, but for the most part, it was a consulting business.
Mm.
And then I started building tools, and I started building things to plug into CRMs, among other things, right? And that's what evolved eventually into the CRM itself, which is a very recent development.
Oh,
Um, but it's one of those things that it never made sense kind of in the moment, but looking back, kind of as you describe it so beautifully, makes me sound much more brilliant than I actually am, right? But a lot of things make sense in hindsight that don't
mm,
necessarily make sense in the moment because you're so deep in the woods that you can't understand where the forest is.
yeah. Oh man. And it's wild. So, you build this thing, you've got people using it. What kinds of feedback do you get from people? I would imagine this blows their mind. Like the fact that you made it in Mad Libs, it's like, okay, I got that's really cool. Like accessible. So what are you hearing from people who are having like incredible results?
Well, it depends, and I will say that people tend to really like it. It's simple, it's easy to use. It is the kind of thing that they have been looking for because they probably tried some other CRMs in the past that were more built for the VP of sales and it just didn't work for them. And this is just simpler and more natural. Like the stuff it's asking them to do is the stuff that they know they need to do. And it doesn't have a lot of extraneous stuff that you need to do in a larger organization. And so one of my favorites is I wish I had started using this years ago, right? It's like, it's just a way to have a truck that you take to the grocery store instead of a space shuttle.
Yeah.
That said, there are other people who were like, wait a second, I signed up, I loaded a bunch of people into it, and why isn't money falling down on me, right?
Boy, yeah. How come, Ruben?
And I'm like, well, how many people have you talked to,
Yeah.
right? Oh, well, I talked to two people last week or something like
Well,
that. And the thing that I'm trying to get everyone to understand, which is a lesson I took probably decades to learn, is if you're in a relationship business, you're in a conversation business. And
yeah.
so a lot of people like myself, right, we get tools because we don't like the conversations. We don't feel comfortable. We want to get out of the conversation. So we're like, I'm going to do a bunch of automation and this, that, and the other thing. And now with AI, blah, 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 blah. So I don't have to talk to anybody. And there are certain businesses where that will work great. If
Yeah.
you're in a relationship business, that will
It,
not work.
it is not one of them, right?
So the real key thing beyond the technology that I think of the technology is here's a way to lower the threshold, lower the amount of mental work that you have to go through to have those conversations. Just remembering who am I supposed to follow up with? What did we talk about last time? Make it easier to respond at the right time. Who referred whom? Who should I be referring? That kind of stuff that takes a lot of mental bandwidth, and it tends to make it so that it's like, if you have a gym next door or you have to drive 20 miles at rush hour to go to the gym, right? Everyone knows we're supposed to go to the gym, but it's really nice when you just make it so easy. And so the goal with Mimiran is it doesn't do any magic for you. It just lowers the threshold by like putting the gym right there, and there's a hot towel and some water and all that stuff to make you actually enjoy working out.
You're really good with these analogies. I don't know if you're aware, but that's like a superpower there.
Oh, thank you. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, for your brain to have come up with the Mad Libs thing with the space shuttle versus like a truck or hand carrying this stuff and now the gym, like that's a skill. That's really cool because especially in something like this where it's the world of SaaS, like
Hmm.
yay, and it can get so hard for a lot of SaaS creators to explain it to lay people. And it just makes it worse sometimes the more they speak. Like, you have the
Well,
opposite, which is wonderful.
thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And that's one of the reasons that Mad Libs tool is in there, because so many of us in our tribe, we get so enamored with the technical details, even if we're not selling software, we're some kind of domain expert. And it's like
Yeah.
the way the doctor talks to another doctor involves a bunch of Latin terms that are really important for that conversation. But when you try to talk to a patient that way, they have no idea what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
We got to break it down to the space shuttle and the gym and the whatever else that people can viscerally understand. And I think that's so important, whether you're selling a tool or you're selling a service. So much of this stuff is so abstract. And you go to someone's website and it's just a bunch of like generic stuff. Sometimes I can't tell, like, have they done their website or did they just throw up the sample templates with like the stock images and the weird
Yeah.
phrases that sound kind of like business stuff?
Yeah.
Right. And to your point, we've got to make it much more visceral for people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that people can't take action if they can't understand. And they don't want to feel stupid. Like you were saying, like some of these things just make you feel dumb. And it's like, well, all right, obviously I can't do it,
Yep.
That I love that. You've made this approachable because it is crucial. We can't, I always halfway joke that the biggest lie in the world is I'll remember that. And it's like when it comes to nurturing relationships with people, you work hard to have these initial conversations, and then to flake out on it, it's like, oh crap, like it's a waste. It's like having a bucket that you're carrying around, this big leaky hole in it that because we can't figure out how to do it. So it's kind of like I'm going to say a public service that you've done.
I mean, that might be taking it far, but I mean, I like to think we all want to be helping people, right? Yes,
Yeah.
we want to make money in our business, but we want to create meaning for our
Yeah.
customers. I think that's why we're here. And
Yeah.
I think if we're wasting so much time trying to pour more water into the leaky bucket, which so many people do, right? That's one of the reasons that this tribe struggles so much. They spend so much time and energy trying to throw whatever into the bucket, not thinking about, well, exactly what belongs in here and how do I make sure that I follow up. And it's like, I like to think of it as, I have a titanium screw in the shoulder because my shoulder popped out when I was younger. So I went to see the right specialist and he put it all back together and all that. But, if I was walking in for that surgery and someone else was out there who was a heart doctor who was like, well, why don't you come get your heart looked at? Or someone else was a throat doctor. Why don't you make sure you don't have sleep apnea? Standing outside trying to get me to do things that I have no interest in doing, that's not going to go very well. But man, I couldn't wait to get in and get my shoulder fixed.
Yeah.
And so many consultants are like the doctor standing outside the hospital saying, hey, I'm a doctor. You look like you might have medical issues. I don't understand why you don't want to give me money right now, right? Versus, hey, there's a bunch of people who really need what you do. They just have no way to understand that you're there because you have obscured yourself. You're like Clark Kent instead of Superman, and you look very generic. Let's let people that need your help be able to find you, and then let's enable you to have that conversation and follow up with them.
That's so good. I mean, that's what it all boils down to. So I love that. This is so good. All right, you ready for rapid fire?
No, but go ahead.
That's great. All right, what's one thing you're struggling with in growing your audience right now, if anything?
There's always so much more to do, and I think what confuses me is there's this proliferation of platforms, podcast. Oh, now YouTube is big, and TikTok, and LinkedIn, and Lineable, and like it's just too much. So I'm not even sure I'm focused on the right ones, but I definitely know I can't do all of them.
Yes, that's for sure. Which two, or like your top two that you ended up settling on?
LinkedIn, and I'm supposed to be doing more with YouTube than I actually am. So that's one that I have to put kind of in the lost bucket, at least for this past year. Like there is stuff going on YouTube, but not as much as I had intended.
Yeah, it's time intensive for sure. There's a lot, thinking up the content, creating the content, editing the content, posting, promoting. Great when it works, and it will, but it takes time. I think that's a good one. All right, how do you currently stay in touch with people like they're leads for you? They've shown some interest. I know you have a free trial, which is really cool. But do you have a system for how you are actually staying in touch with your people?
Well, I'm not only selling the system, I am sort of user number one, if you will. And so a lot of this comes from my own frustrations with using literally dozens of other CRMs and struggling with the real basics of following up. And so there's a lot of stuff built into Mimiran to make it easier to stay on top of those relationships. And I think one thing that you realize is even if you don't think you're a like big networker with lots of leads, blah, blah, blah. You have more people in your world than you can possibly keep up with in a really meaningful way. So some of it is being able to let go and say, hey, this might be a great person, but I just don't have time for this relationship right now. That's okay. But make sure that you're intentional about the relationships you want to foster and that you are definitely following up with your prospects. Are you following up with your referral partners, the people who sent you people? Did you tell them how it went? Right? There's nothing simpler that's going to do more for your business than being really easy to refer to and being somebody that folks want to refer to because you make them feel good. Like all this basic stuff that I just ignored for so many years, don't ignore it.
That's the best thing, young entrepreneurs, listen to older entrepreneurs. We have done things, we have made mistakes, we have learned, what is it they say? You're really smart if you can learn from your own mistakes. You're brilliant if you can learn from others.
That's right. Make no mistakes. No need to repeat mine.
Right, exactly. Make your own. Right? All right. What's the one tool or resource that you wish you had to grow your business faster?
The resource that I wish I had would be more uninterrupted time to do deep work.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, let's shift that into now because it's entrepreneurs gone wild. I know you have a dog. I've got 4. They do get us outside, which is definitely a huge off-label benefit, right? Mm-hmm. How do you spend what's the best way for you to go out? You're get your great ideas. You feel like $1 million. What does that look like for you outside?
I love taking my dog for a walk in the woods. Oh. And sometimes I'll listen to music. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast or an audiobook. Sometimes I just want to hear the birds sing. And it sort of depends on what's going on with my mind. But I think there's something so important. We evolved to be in nature. And we have sort of made ourselves into zoo creatures, right? You go to the zoo and you see these like magnificent animals looking all depressed because they're in cages and they're not in their natural habitat. And what I realized when I got older was, oh wait, we did that to ourselves as well. And I think that's why we have a lot of folks who are materially very well off, but psychologically not very well adjusted because we're freaking zoo creatures. We got to get outside and get into nature.
Oh, may I steal that? Because that is fantastic.
Please.
I mean, it's uncanny what we've done to ourselves, listening to the whole, hustle, you can sleep when you're dead, the best that you need to be working all the time. It's total garbage. Well,
and even the people who aren't working all the time, we now have all these devices and streams of people basically trying to steal our attention for their own purposes, not to help us.
Right.
And we have to be very careful about guarding our attention. And I think you're highlighting something really important, which is we have to make time in some way, shape, or form to be outside, to be in nature as much as that might be available to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it can be really hard. I struggle still with that. And I'm, here we're homesteading, we're building this retreat center, and there's still days where I'm like, oh, I don't really get outside that much. And it's, that pressure to get the to-do list done is pretty steep. When you're outside, how do you, you get this cascade of ideas when you're out there. How do you capture it for yourself?
That is the one of the issues, right, with being outside. And one of the things I like to do, right, I can bring my CRM with me and my phone. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just have these conversations while I'm walking, which I love, but it's hard to take the notes, right? You got to be very diligent about stopping and taking the notes, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's certain types of things that lend themselves really well to being outside, to being done outside, like thinking through problems, right? We often get all wrapped up in things, and then you just need a moment to let your brain relax and be in its natural environment, and suddenly it can see, oh, 99% of this is just in the way. Here's the one little piece that I need to focus on. And you don't necessarily need to solve the entire problem, but it enforces a simplicity because, at least for me, I tend not to stop and write things down while I'm in the woods. I'm like, okay, what's the main idea here? And maybe there's 3 sub ideas that go with it, but it's something that has to be very simple.
Oh yeah. Because otherwise it's I have the same thing. So I'll end up we're like, okay, I've got 3 points. I had 3 things that are great now. Like, it's kind of like if you're running to the grocery store, okay, milk, eggs, bread, milk, eggs,
Right.
bread. You know, like,
Where's my space shuttle? Where did I park that thing?
oh my gosh. All right. What advice would you pass along to, let's say, coaches and consultants who are out there? It could be, best advice just in general. I'm not even going to direct it more than that.
Well, I think the main thing I would say is, as we talked about earlier, you're in a relationship business. That means you're in a conversation business. That means you have a two-step sales process of one, figuring out exactly who you want to talk to and talking to them. It is that simple. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's that simple. And if you work on those two things, it will get easier and easier and better and better. And what I found was I was doing everything but that. And so I was making it really hard, and that created a vicious cycle. If instead you can create a virtuous cycle, you're going to have such a good time when you're actually listening to people telling you what they need. Suddenly it becomes so much easier to turn those people into clients because you can actually deliver what matters to them, right? As opposed to what you think they need. And keep at it. I think one of the things that's hard, a lot of entrepreneurs, they start their business because I wouldn't know anything about this, of course, but they are control freaks and they want everything to go a certain way. And so when you have a conversation with a potential client who doesn't sign up with you, it feels like a failure, right? Like, I didn't do this right. I didn't get the A. I failed. And instead, no, that's not how it goes. When you're going to the doctor, you don't end up on the operating table every time you walk into the doctor's, hopefully, right? Like, there's some things that are just checkups.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. And I think if you can think of it that way, suddenly you have a very different energy when you're interacting with these folks. And not only are you going to have a lot more fun, you're actually going to turn a lot more of those patients into folks who actually end up on your operating table.
I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds fun, Reuben.
That's what's so crazy. It's actually fun if you're doing it right. And I used to think that it's supposed to suck and you're just supposed to be a hard worker and you're supposed to power through it. And of course that you can do that for a while, but it's not sustainable. And what I've realized is, no, I just thought about it all wrong. And if you're not having fun, it doesn't mean that every interaction with every single person is always going to be fun. But in general, like, does your doctor seem like they're having fun? Do they like practicing medicine? Hopefully they do. And hopefully they give you that sense, right? When you talk to them. And you should have that same sense of energy when you're talking with people about your business.
That's so beautiful. And it really makes such a difference. It's like, we're going to be doing this for a long time. Theoretically, whatever you're going to be doing.
Right.
And life is just too short to not have fun doing that and to have those conversations. And now you've taken the least fun part of it away by making it so much easier. That's fantastic. You facilitate people being able to have great conversations and not have to feel like they're carrying this big ball of, oh gosh, how am I going to do all this? That's so cool. All right. Where can people find out more? And I know you have a trial going. You probably have some good resources for them. What's the best way for them to connect?
Yeah, if you guys go to Mimiran.com, Mimiran.com, there's free trial. There's a bunch of free resources from proposal templates and lead magnet ideas to video training sessions, links to my Sales for Nerds podcast, which is all about sales and marketing for this tribe of people. Lots of stuff. So go knock yourself out. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I think, I don't know if I'm the only Reuben Swartz, but it should be pretty obvious. The Reuben Swartz from Mimiran. Please feel free to reach out and connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest. This is really cool. I'm so glad that you're out there in the world doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me, Sue. It's been a pleasure.